Of your phone calls as well. He's the Hall of Fame coach, Bill Cowher, Super Bowl champion, and you can see him on CBS, the NFL Today studio analyst. Coach, good to see you again. How do you not overreact to the first 2 weeks of the season as a coach?
Well, you can't, Dan. I think the biggest thing you do is just kind of gain information about your football team and trying to find ways to win, but constantly adjusting and adapting as you go through the first month. Because I think, you really don't know what you have. And one thing you have to keep in mind, I think now the way people are approaching the preseason, the really first game you're going to see these guys play a whole game is last week. And so now you have the second week where now you're a little bit probably more sore, so you're prepping for this. So I always thought that first month is trying to kind of get a gauge for where your football team, your strengths, your flaws, and then in the meantime trying to find ways to win games and stay in the hunt in that first month. So if you go 500, I think you're good. Obviously, getting off to a fast start gives you a little bit of leeway in the middle of the season. You hit those inevitable walls. So, but it's been an exciting first 2 weeks, no question about it.
But it feels like Bill Belichick was given credit for treating September like it was his preseason. Like those first 4 games, we're going to get everybody. We're going to find out what kind of football team. Like, did you do that as well, that you could look at an entire month and go, then we can figure out who we are?
Yeah, I really wanted to kind of know what we couldn't do more than what we could do. I mean, because I think there are some things that then you kind of adapt and adjust a philosophy that's around what your strengths are, trying to mask the flaws that you see that show up. You do something 1 week, is it circumstance? You do something 2 weeks in a row, it's a trend. You do something that's 3 weeks in a row, that's potentially a problem or that's a strength. So, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing you're trying to do is understand what it is. But you also want to make sure that you have flexibility in your system so you can adapt and adjust to injuries, to who you're playing right now, or somebody starts to stand out. You want to get them more involved into the game plan. So it's really a fact-finding month to me. And at the same time, still finding ways to win games so that you don't fall too far in a hole. And if you go 3-1, if you can go 4-0 that first month, it just gives you some leeway as you go down this. Like I said before, it's hard to sustain it for 4 months. You don't want to be playing your best football at the beginning. You want to play your best football at the end. But getting off to a fast start really helps.
How would you assess the Steelers after 2 games?
Well, I mean, I think they did a lot of good things in week 1. Certainly a tough loss yesterday. I think, it's with that offense, there's going to be some missed timings. I thought it was interesting. You saw a lot of slants at DK Metcalf were behind him in the first week, which means, Aaron's trying to get a gauge for DK. This week was a couple were in front of him. So there's that timing element that just takes the game time element of seeing who plays faster, who plays slower. There's some injuries they're going through right now. And then certainly what happened with Caleb Johnson, I think with the kickoff, it reminds me going back in 2000 in Plexico Burris' first year. I think it was week 5. We were playing the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville. Plexico goes over the middle of the field, catches a dig route, goes to the ground, gets up and spikes the ball. And he was never touched. They catch the ball. He's wondering why everyone keeps playing. And then realize, oh, yeah, I'm in the NFL. And you know what? You have to tag me down. So thank goodness we were winning like 20. We had a big lead. I'm going, I hope that is a great teaching moment for you. I said, because it didn't cost us the game. But just understand, in the National Football League, you got to be tagged down. And I think for Caleb Johnson, going back there, seeing the ball going over his head, he realized he didn't touch it. It went into the end zone. So it's just going to be a touchback. No, Caleb, it's the NFL. You got to jump on it. So I don't think anyone felt worse about it than he did. It's a teaching moment that unfortunately came at a very bad time in the game. But, that is kind of the National Football League. I think Mike Tomlin said it best yesterday that, the week before they get a fumble on a punt return and they end up going in and scoring and getting the win. And yesterday they have a blunder in the kicking game again. And so the kicking game, I thought these first 2 weeks have been very instrumental in football games. And you're starting to see the kickoff now coming back into play. Yeah. So in the past, I think we probably have kept players because we weren't thinking about special teams, not much coverage. Well, you got to start thinking about it right now. And the kickers, we see them miss extra points. Then we see a 64-yarder at the end of regulation, followed up by another one at the end of overtime. So the kicking game has played a big part these first 2 weeks.
How aware are you in the moment of yelling at a player when you know everything's televised? There's a camera on you constantly, but you saw this in the Jacksonville game yesterday with coach and quarterback. When you coached, how aware were you?
I don't think I didn't want to be aware. It's an emotional game. I think the biggest thing they understood with me is I wanted to be able to address it at the moment. And if I felt at times that I needed to be the calm in the storm, which means there's too much hecticness going around, I was the calm. But sometimes I needed to be the storm. I felt like we're sleepwalking out there. I'm going to start getting in people's faces and start waking them up. I said, because so it really is to me that job of the head coach to kind of gauge where your football team is. And I think at the same time, know who the players are. There are some guys that think it's okay to jump offside. No, it's not okay. That'll never be okay. A pre-snap penalty to me is a lack of focus that you have on your football team, and that's totally unacceptable. And taking care of the football. Sometimes those things happen. We see more punch-outs now. I talked about that yesterday in our show. The peanut punch, the Charles Tillman punch-out has become very instrumental. And so protecting the football in space is very, very critical. Protecting the football overall is critical. Pre-snap penalty is unacceptable. So I think it's who you are and who you're with. But also, if you're going to yell at that person, make sure you pat them on the back, too, when they have a good play. So I just think
Steelers Nation, listen up, because what you just heard from Coach Bill Cowher is exactly what we needed to remember right now. Forget the noise, forget the overreactions. This is not the time to panic. This is the time to learn. It's week 2, and the Hall of Fame coach just reminded everyone watching the first month of the NFL season is not about being perfect. It's about figuring out who you are, where your strengths are, what your flaws are, and how you adapt from that. Coach Cowher said it perfectly. These early games are like extended preseason. We're still seeing the offense settle in. We're seeing Aaron Rodgers build timing with his guys. We're watching young players like Caleb Johnson take their first real snaps. And yeah, sometimes they'll make a mistake. But let me tell you something. That mistake from Caleb, that's not the end of his story. It's the beginning. Coach compared it to when Plexico Burress made a rookie mistake early in his career. And you know what? He learned, he grew, and he became a baller. That's what we do in Pittsburgh. We don't give up on our guys after one error. We turn it into fire. And Coach said it straight. If you finish the first month at .500, you're in a good place. That's the mindset of a champion. That's what Coach Tomlin knows. That's what Cowher built. That's what this team is built on. Accountability, adjustment, and belief. So to all the fans ready to jump ship, slow down. This is not about week 2. This is about December. This is about January. This is about who we become. Mistakes now, they're lessons. And we've got the leadership, Rodgers, Tomlin, and yes, guys like Jaylen Warren and Jalen Ramsey to turn this into fuel. Steelers Nation, gather round. We've got something real to talk about. After that disappointing Week 2 loss to the Seahawks, there was a moment that cut deep, but also showed exactly how this Steelers team can grow. Aaron Rodgers, pissed off on the field after an interception in the end zone, turns around and yells at Calvin Austin. Calvin had run a poor route, a route that broke the timing, messed up what could have been a catch for Pat Freiermuth, and ended up costing Pittsburgh points. We saw Rodgers heated, we saw Austin frustrated, but what matters is what came after. Because after the game, Rodgers didn't try to bury the young receiver. He didn't throw him under the bus. He admitted the mistake. He praised Austin as the best kid ever, said he probably should have stayed in the flat, said he knows it, and Austin, for his part, owned up immediately. That interception wasn't on aid or on Pat or anything. If I had just stayed on the front pylon, I was trying to make a play. Wrong spot, spurred a moment. That kind of humility, that kind of ownership, that is the Steelers' way. That is what builds a culture. If we step back for a second, we see something bigger than one blown play. Calvin Austin, still early in his career, dealing with injuries, trying to solidify his spot in an offense that added DK Metcalf, that has tight ends and shakeups in the receiving corps. He's faced speed, expectation, competition. He had a great opener. In week 1, he caught 6 targets, made plays, showed explosiveness. But week 2 gave him adversity, and he responded not with excuses, not with silence, but with accountability. Rodgers, with all his experience, could have lashed out, could have blamed him publicly, let the frustration simmer. Instead, he confronted the issue, corrected it, praised the character, and made clear this is a learning moment. That sends a message to the entire locker room that the standard is high, that mistakes aren't fatal if you own them, learn from them, correct them, and move forward. We also have to talk about context. Calvin Austin has had a rocky offseason with a minor abdominal injury, practice reps limited, preseason carryovers. Coaches like Mike Tomlin have spoken highly of his speed, his route work improving, that the wide receiver room is deeper, but Austin has taken strides. When you consider that, this misstep is far from disaster. It's part of the growing pains. When Rodgers trusts you enough to call you by name, to correct you publicly, but also support you, that's a tremendous vote of confidence. And there's a bigger picture here for the Steelers. They've invested in Rodgers to bring leadership. They've reshaped the offense, bringing in talent and testing young guys. Freiermuth, Metcalf, Austin, even second-year guys competing behind the scenes. This is your opportunity. Who handles adversity well? Who learns fastest? Who doesn't shrink when the spotlight blisters? Austin had his chance. He responded with honesty. That means he's still very much in the mix. That's the whole difference. So here's where I land. This moment, as messy and painful as it looked, ends up being favorable. It shows character. It shows leadership from Rodgers. It shows that Austin has the guts to admit when he's wrong. And it signals to the rest of the team, mistakes will come, but how you process them defines your season. Because I believe in this Steelers squad. I believe that with this kind of culture, with accountability, with works in the wide receiver room, with a gritty defense, with Rodgers guiding, this team is still built to make noise, still built for a playoff run. Now, I want to hear from you, Steelers Nation. Did that moment with Austin scare you, or did it make you believe more in this team? What do you think is the single most important fix for the offense right now? If this breakdown hit you, hit that like button, smash subscribe to Steelers Nation Wire. Let's ride together through the ups and downs because this is our team and we grow stronger with every test.